One more webinar. This is our 24th webinar on the continuous series. We have started this training the people and training the engineers, the architects through webinars. And apart from this, we do many programs on the skill development and the project management and other things. Today with us, we thought why can't we teach the people on waterproofing and train them on waterproofing. This is an important element in the any structure, and the issues happens once the occupier comes in, and after 6 months or 1 year, on the time the builders will not be available, or the person who has constructed he may not be available. The some other occupants or the end user, they will issues mainly on the waterproofing front. So I thought, why can't we share with the people the technology, what is the technology available, and what are the new modern systems are there. Then I approached Mike Arment. They immediately agreed to give an education session, knowledge sharing session with our private engineers. Apart from that, consulting engineers are there. Lot many people are there, and architects also, of course, there. About the specification, they are going to give an idea about the latest technology and what are the specification, which material has to be used, so that our structures, whatever we are building, it will be long lasting. On this account, I will invite Mr. Sai Gowrav. He is product segment manager for South and Central and floor from Mike Arment, and he is having enough experience, around 18 years of experience on construction chemicals and the allied industry, and he has delivered more than 100 plus seminars and webinars at various forums of ICA and engineering colleges, and for the government people and the private people. Welcome you, sir. Yesterday's session was also very nice, and I hope the people will benefit from this today's session also. Now I will hand over the session to you, and I request audience to mute. Sania, especially yesterday also your mic was not muted. It was totally disturbing. Request to mute your mics, and you can throw the questions over the messenger box. We will ask the people to answer your questions, queries, whatever possible. And at the end, we can have a Q&A session. Roughly around 67 people are there in this session, sir. You can start.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ashok Kumar. I'm happy and glad to conduct a webinar for the second consecutive day. It had been a wonderful experience and interaction with you all professionals, and hope yesterday's session was informative and was useful. Today we will be going through the trends on waterproofing, and I welcome you all for the webinar on waterproofing system. I request you all to put yourself on mute and drop a question in the chat box. The panel of experts here in MYK will answer your queries. I welcome you all once again. Now, I welcome you all once again for a webinar on technical sessions on waterproofing. First, it is a target segment of MYK. It is from the waterproofing, the floorings, the building joint sealants, repair and restoration, and even on the anchor systems. Now, today we would talk about the waterproofing system for wet areas and for the water retaining structures and for the roof or the exposed structures. Now, the first thing is what we need to know is that what is waterproofing? What people tell it is what is waterproofing? Waterproofing is nothing but protecting the concrete or a building against the damaging action of water. Virtually a building envelope, it will particularly a below grade structure or a plaza would encounter hydrostatic pressure from water during its lifetime. Therefore, the quality waterproofing system is very much essential to preserve the water tightness and building envelope in any building. Like Mr. Ashok Kumar has rightly told, waterproofing is a very important topic in construction industry. So we are also talking to the people to also incorporate such kind of an presentation so that our fellow engineers as well as the professional would understand the need for the waterproofing of a structure. So why and water is very important. Water is a carrier, and water is a main carrier of corrosive agent. It participates in the chemical reaction. It damages the structure and damages the facility and the installation. That means the water damages the facilities as well as the installation. It also causes a functional as well as the structural damage to the structure. So yesterday we have talked about the various effects of water and on the repair and the rehabilitation. What is the concept of waterproofing? Why we need a waterproofing? The need of waterproofing is for the durability of the structure, durability of concrete, for the hygiene factor, protection and installation of the facilities. So what are the causes? How the water enters into the structure? It is through cracks, it is through the joints, the porous media, might be capillaries, honeycombs, pores, and the defects in the construction. Now there are different companies would come to you all and talk about the different kinds of products. Some would tell that my products are waterproof. Some would tell it is a water repellent. Some would tell about the damp proofing. But the terminology as per the ACI for the different kinds of the definition for different kinds of waterproofing systems and water resistant, watertight, water repellency is even shown here. What is the waterproofing? As we have already known, it is a tendency of the material that keeps the water away from the body under hydrostatic pressure. Damp proofing, it is a system that resists the water vapor or a minor moisture, not subjected to weathering or the water pressure. We need to be very clear what is the system which one we are adopting, and that would also lead to the catastrophic damage of a structure. So we need to know a proper difference on the terminology on different kinds of the waterproofing systems, that what is the system we are adopting in our project. What are the different types of waterproofing systems are based on the chemicals? The main waterproofing systems are classified into the preform membranes, that is a membrane systems, then the liquid applied, and the integral waterproofing systems. And these waterproofing systems are subclassified into bituminous and non-bituminous, because the old traditional technology, the people used to use a bituminous based material, and now we in the new technological strengths we use a non-bituminous based preform membranes. Which one you might be heard of, which one I would also talk about, is an HDPE or a PVC or a TPO membrane. In a liquid applied also we have bituminous and non-bituminous, because now the trend is to use a non-bituminous cementitious based coatings or a polyurethanes or epoxies or the acrylics or any other coatings such as polyuria. Now the integral systems are subclassified into crystalline waterproofing systems and chemical admixtures. The crystalline waterproofing system comes in two kinds, that is with an admix as well as the surface applied systems. Now, based on the chemistry, the waterproofing systems are classified into integral waterproofing, reactive kind of crystalline systems, bituminous based, and elastomeric polymer based waterproofing system. In the today's presentation or a webinar, I would talk about polyurethanes, polyuria, and hybrid polyurethanes, and some I would touch on only on preform membranes with an HDPE membrane system. Based on the chemistry, the waterproofing systems are also classified into bituminous, as I've already told. But what is the definition? The people called it as an APP or an SBS or an TPO based system or an EPDM or MMA. APP means it is depending upon the chemistry. APP is nothing but atatic polypropylene. SBS is nothing but styrene, styrene, and TPO is thermoplastic olefin, and EPDM is ethylene propylene dimonomer, and MMA is methyl acrylate. Depending upon the application systems, also the waterproofing systems are classified into brush applied, roller applied, and spray applied. Almost all of our cementitious based systems, as well as the PU as well as polyuria based systems, are also comes under the brush, roller, as well as the spray applied systems. The hot weld kind of a system is your APP, that is an tar felt system, and heat applied is a new technological strength in preform membranes. Some problem. So now if we talk about investment versus criticality, if you take an investment for any building, so the total investment for waterproofing as well as total investment of a civil work and a waterproofing investment is nothing but 0.6% out of the total investment. But what we do, but the criticality of the waterproofing or a risk management are associated with long-term maintenance cost. If you neglect this 0.6%, then the cost incurred for the repair without a proper waterproofing system is approximately 20% of the total investment value. That is a very high value. Therefore, a reliable waterproofing system is must for an overall project success. I like this picture very well, because most of the time when we go to the customers or to the engineers on the contracts costing and the estimate department, they would always tell us that there would be somebody who do cheaper, but that cheaper would be at what cost? That is what we need to know. That is why it is very important to choose a right waterproofing system, which one we will talk about it in my next slides. Now, we would talk about the waterproofing of the basement structures. In a basement, there are different kinds of basements depending upon the complexity. You see, this is a basement structure. So the intervention of the waterproofing system in this kind of a structure is much more different. And if you see an isolated foundation structure, I think so there is some problem where I can see that the voice is muted.
Proceed. There is not an issue.
Not an issue?
Not an issue. Audible.
Yeah. It is an isolated foundation structures. Then we have the shore pile structure, because why we are showing all these different pictures of the foundation is to make you understand the all different kinds of the foundation structure. There is a need for a different kind of an waterproofing intervention and the waterproofing systems to be carried out. So this is with a D-wall and a pile foundation structures. And then for the retaining wall structure, also they require a different kinds of a waterproofing system. And with the basement and the rock anchor where the water pressure is very high, at that areas, we would talk about how to select a waterproofing system and what is the right system to be selected to prevent any water seepage in the basement. And for a cut and cover structures, also the intervention of the waterproofing systems are much more different, even for the top-down constructed UG structures also. We would talk about the basement structures. That is, we would talk on problems and defects, and we would talk about selection criteria and solutions, and on the best practices as well as the case studies. Now, in a basement floor, you can see, you would have seen such kind of a basement floor where water penetration is from the ground level if there is no proper waterproofing system is done. And this is what happens. If there is a waterproofing system is neglected, then if you have a nearby a water source nearby, or if there is any groundwater increase, then you have a leakage at the basement floor, and then that also affects the functionality. So this is a basement you see in the retaining wall, because this is one of the project where incidentally I have been in to give a solution to the customer, because we already told to the customer is that there is a nearby water source, then you need to require a very good waterproofing solution for that. But there is a heavy chance that the groundwater would increase. But the customer did not hear us, and now he is spending more than the cost for the repair than the waterproofing cost what he has paid. And I want to know from the audience, is the injection or a pressure grouting is a problem or a solution? You can even send a chat. Is it a pressure grouting is a problem or a solution? Anybody? Yes, the pressure grouting is a solution if you need to it is a solution. I could see somebody tell Mr. Sandeep telling that it is a solution. Yes, sometimes it is a solution, because without the pressure grouting, you cannot stop certain kind of an seepage that is happening. It is a problem if you go on. If you go on, you're fixing the nozzles at each and intervals, you are damaging the structure. Hence, it is a problem. So that we need to be very clear when we kind of an intervention. Now, in a basement, there are certain types of condensations also that takes place, or the mold. What is the condensation? When an hot ware comes in contact with the cold surface, or then you have a water condensate forming, that is called as a condensation, and due to the continuous water, you have a mold, the mold formation also, and that affects the hygiene and the environment. Now you see a very good car parking systems, which gives the aesthetic pleasing finish when anybody comes to the car parking. But what happens if there's no proper waterproofing systems are done? Then the car parking systems or it delaminates. Now this is the one of the projects where you can see almost all the high-end vehicles are submerged in water. This is a picture which one I have taken when during that process, when this submerged the water submerged wood has taken place because of the continuous water seepage from at that building, because of the groundwater flow. You can see the how and high costly vehicles are submerged in water. This is what happens if it is a proper waterproofing system is not selected. Then that is the process of dewatering. Also, you can see in this picture. You can see at the back the people are even dewatering because of the continuously the basement is flooded with water. Even in this project, even that the third basement is completely closed. Even today, the third basement is completely closed, where they are unable to sort out the issues. The cost of a repair is very high. But not only the cost, now you need to think about the durability of the structure also, because of the continuous water seepage. Now this is on the soffits of the slabs in the plaza. You can see on the top, or even in the car parking systems, you can see the cracks developed and the water traveling from that or dripping down on the vehicle. And this is what happens if you have a costly vehicle. The paint itches off. And you can see the picture next to my right, where you can see even in the car parking, you can see the car is covered by an cover to prevent it from any further damage due to the water seepage. Now this is what is a plaza below. You can see how the water seepage, and then it is also an aesthetically unpleasing as well as the unhygienic conditions. Even in the expansion, even in the plazas or the driveways, what you can see is that because of if an expansion joints or anything is not properly properly done, or the surface waterproofing is not done, then you have an issue of water seeping. That in turn also reduces the lifetime and the durability of the structure. This is what is in a driveway where the expansion joints are not treated, because expansion joints is very, very important, because the most of the project what we see, they find lot of problems if an expansion joints are not treated properly. And this is one of the areas of the lift pit. This is a software industry where the entire lift pit was flooded with water during the rainy season, and there was an high effort of an hazard of an electric hazard, as well as the aesthetically the unpleasing conditions. And this is how the intervention is done. And therefore it is very important that you choose a proper waterproofing system. And what are the leakage points? The leakage points are through the construction joints. The construction joints has to be treated properly, and then you need to take up with an expansion joints, which I've already spoken about, and then you need to take up with the tie rod hole fillings. If that is not the tie rod holes or they are not filled properly, also then you have the issues of the leaking, the water seeping in. That is the honeycomb areas, voids and cracks, either the improper compaction or due to the improper mix design or due to the curing or certain kind of a process, then you have all this kind of the effects. Then the pipe penetrations, that also has to be sealed properly if in the retaining wall structure. And what is the solution? We have a repair mortars to fill the voids as well as the infirmities in the concrete. For the joints, we have water bars that swells in the presence of water. And then for the pipe sealants, we have swelling water sealants. And then for expansion joints, we have the sealants and tapes. And we also have the mortars for the repair. Now, first we need to understand how do we select an waterproofing system for the basement. So the waterproofing selection system is based on the water table and on the depth of the structure below the ground level. That is very, very important. We need to know the water table that at that areas where and the depth of the structure below ground, that should be also known. And once it is known, then you need to know what is the type of a structure, what is an aggressive agent in the soil, is it near to the sea, or there are chemicals present in the soil, or there is any pollutant. And you need to the waterproofing selection also depends upon the construction methods of, for example, for the retaining wall or the continuous board pile or a cast in situ cut and cover. And it also depends upon the accessibility of for installation, because I cannot choose the same waterproofing system for cast in situ and a precast, because in a precast construction you have lot of precast joints between the elements that has to be waterproofed properly, otherwise you have the water seepage issues. And then you need to also choose the waterproofing system based on the ease of installation and the track record in that environmental conditions. So waterproofing criteria depending upon hydrostatic pressure. What does this do? This is what is called as the level of water table and the depth of the structure. You can see the first, that is above the water table area. In the second structure, it is in the water table area. So that the systems of intervention or the systems of waterproofing system for the first and the second would be much more different, so that so that we can prevent any entry of water into the structure as per BS 8102. So in a below grade structure, what is that to be protected? You need to protect the pile caps, the ground beams, the retaining walls, the raft slab. In a negative side waterproofing, we do for the block walls, the cellars, the lift, the water tank, and integral waterproofing. And you need to treat the joints as well as repairing of cracks. Now we have a system called Aqua Arm Water Bar RS 800. What does water bar do? In this water bar, it is placed in each and every construction joints, and this water bar it swells from more than the 100 to 150 times of its capacity when it comes in contact with the water. But the question might be is that once we place the water bar, since we are pouring the concrete, the concrete, the water is present. Does the swelling water bar does not swell? That might be a question. But this is an PVA based water bars that does not swell, and swelling takes place after the 8 hours of continuous contact with the water. And it is something like, and the swelling capacity is also, it is a reswellable. The swelling capacity of this water bar is more than 800%. I'll just show you a video of an water bar, how it is being placed. The swelling of this water bar takes place in the presence of the continuous presence of water. And once the swelling stops when there is no further water present, it is a reswellable water bar. And this is how the water bars can be placed. It can be placed on the joints using an adhesive, and for the blunt butt joints and overlapping joints, and even for the corner connections. And we have an bentonite based water bars also with us, so the principle would be same, but this is the chemicals are of bentonite based. And you can see the bentonite based water bar, how it works. This is a small simulation where we have laid a water ball in a joint, and then when there is a continuous water pressure there, it swells, and it swells from more than its capacity and blocks the water. And this is how the water bars are placed at each and every the cold joints, that it be the vertical or the transverse joints or horizontal joints, where the water bars are placed in and the large basement structures. And this is how is an example of the water bars being placed on the horizontal as well as the vertical locations. And this is how the water bars are placed. If the width of the concrete is more than 300 mm, then you need to use a 2 water bar, and this thing has to be avoided, because what happens when you place a water bar on a wooden reap or something, when in the presence of water it swells and breaks, and then the effect of the water bar would be uncompensible. We have a system called Aqua Arm Powerproof 800, which we call it as an HDPE membrane. This kind of an HDPE membrane is a high technical product that is for the below grade applied waterproofing system. It consists of a 3-layer. One is an HDPE backing and the pressure sensitive adhesive and the trafficable resistant protective coating. What happens in this kind of a system is that when we lay a concrete we can directly lay the concrete on the HDPE based membrane on the compacted PCC, and when the concrete gets bonded to the trafficable protective coating, and your pressure sensitive gel gets released, and therefore it resists the lateral flow of the water. So the membrane and thickness of the membrane varies from 1.2 and 1.5. In other foreign countries, they use only 1.5 thicker membrane, and membrane is not suitable for the roof. And I'll just show you a video how the application of an HDPE membrane takes place.
IS 16471 is a vast application requires no carbon for fillets, traffic, weather resistant adhesive, barrier to hazardous gases. Ensure dots are not dragged on the membrane, as this might result in rupture of the membrane. Figure out all standing water, membrane, frequent intervals, and also cut into complete wood. Ensure overlaps are set well during placement of membrane. Ensure proper placement on pre-covered prior to reinforcing. A cloth or make complete solution for below-grade water. These contents below mentioned further assistance.
Now this is about the tools required for the applications. There is a hot air gun and the roller, the cutters, the measuring tape, the round nose spatula, the cotton cloth, and the cleaning the areas. This is about the surface preparation. There should be no the sharp edges. The surface should be smooth and regular, and it should be sound and solid. Then it is a robust and a trafficable material. Once you lay and this HDPE membrane, you can directly leave it exposed for 36 days, and then you can even lay the reinforcement because it has got an higher the puncture resistant properties of more than 880 newtons. And but you need to take care that you don't drag the reinforcement on the HDPE membrane. You can see any kind of uncongested reinforcement you can directly lay. The advantage with this system is that in other kinds of system you need to go for a screed concrete for the protection of the waterproofing system, but in an HDPE membrane you can directly lay the raft concrete on the top, and this also prevents the lateral flow of water. It directly bonds to your raft concrete, and this is how the application for and the piles. Because since you would be breaking the piles, the surface would not be clear, and the application with an HDPE membrane is a very fast application, and it is very simple to apply. Now in the what we do, the pile top treatment, because the surface would not be proper, we use a micro concrete to make it a proper surface. And once it is done, and we use an epoxy based primer and epoxy grout there, because the epoxy grout resists the capillary flow of water. And then we can even terminate the HDPE membrane to each and every pressure release pipes, and then we can also use us and PU based coating as a protection. And this is what is a schematic diagram how we can use an HDPE membrane on the below raft as well as even for the retaining walls. And these HDPE membranes should be protected on the retaining wall with the drain boards or the dimple boards, or against any damage during the soil fill, or the drain boards, or helps to guide the water to the drain pipe. Now we would talk about the waterproofing system for the internal areas, that would be balconies, the swimming pool. Here also we talk about the problems and defects, the selection criterias, and the best practices. Now this is the one of the issue what you see in and waterproofing of a toilet. So what happens? It is a leakage at the pipe penetration if the pipe, if the packing of the pipe is not done properly. And this is also another issue you can see in the most of the apartments in Bangalore or at some other region in the pan India. If the waterproofings are not done, the leakage from the bathroom corners, then the proper gradients is not placed where the water gets stagnated at that place. And if you have a bathtub place, then the improper sealant application or the deterioration of the sealant also causes the seepage in the water. And this is one of the project where in the balcony they did not even do any of the packing of an outlet pipes. You can see the water seeping through that the outlet pipes. And this is what happens in certain kind of a project where because of the improper waterproofing system, you can see the moisture coming through, and then you have a leakage pipes or the plumbing issues. Then if the water comes in or the water trickles down, then you can see the discoloration on the car paints or the hitching of the paint would take place. And this is in one of the projects in the balcony where they have laid a designer tiles and the joints are not filled properly. You see the water entering through these tile joints and causing the delamination of or the peel off of the paint. And what is the waterproofing system we need to follow for the toilets or the wet areas? It should be a simple system for a confined area, because you have at all the sides the beam as well as the slab, the movement would be much more lesser. You can use a rigid kind of an waterproofing system here for the toilet areas, as because there would be a less amount of movement, but it also depends upon the type of the structure. For example, I cannot use a rigid based waterproofing system for a precast system, which one I will talk about a different kind of a system. And then the waterproofing property should be resistant to penetration of water as per the BS standards, or as per the ASTM standard. It should have a good adhesion. Now you can see it should have a good elastic properties, and there would be always someone there to distract you if there is no proper waterproofing systems have been done for the wet areas. Now in the pools and in the water features, it causes the efflorescence in the pool, but in the bathroom and the toilets, we need to be very clear that we need to prevent the substrate, especially walls. The joint treatment has to be done for all the construction. Joints treatment has to be done, and the pipes and the penetration to be taken care. So you can use a cementitious or sometimes a polyurethane based waterproofing system. This is a system built up of an cementitious based waterproofing system. All the joints you need to use a tape instead of going for a coving or the haunch at the joint. Then you can use the cementitious based system and directly the tile adhesive and the tiling if it is a flat slab. If it is a sunken slab, then you need to protect the waterproof coating with a plaster, and then you need to fill up that whatever sunken areas with the cinder or with the screed, and then you need to go for a tiling. So in a swimming pool purpose, what are the I will talk about that in this swimming pool. Now we have a product called 2C, which is an cementitious based systems that has got an high elongation properties, and it can withstand an hydrostatic pressure. This is a cementitious system where and all I can use it for the water tank, the swimming pool, the balconies, the marine structures, and waterproofing under tile. And this is one of the picture of a project of a water tank. You can see at the joints where the improper waterproofing is done. Then you can see the cracks and the leakage happening, and at the because of that the continuous water seepage as well as the moisture, and certain times also you can see the growth of algae because of the continuous the flow of water. Now we have a product called Aqua Arm Saniflex, which is a synthetic resin-based dispersion, which is a single component in nature that can be applied on the plaster or a gypsum board, or even on the marine plywood or a thixotropic consistency, and on the existing ceramic tiles and the natural stones, cement, unnitrated wooden, and the magnesite substrate also. But now you can see on the hotel industries or or certain kind of they go for a plaster board or the gypsum boards as a partition boards have been used. And that kind of a system, what kind of a waterproofing system should be we need to see is that it should be very simple. It should have a good adhesion on the non-cementitious substrate also, and it should be flexible and elastic, which should be a less rigidity, and we can directly lay the tile on the surface. As the product what we have is a Saniflex has got more than 114% of an elongation, and this is what is an application takes place. First we need to clean the surface, then apply a single component primer, then all the joints has to be treated with the joint tape, and then we need to apply the synthetic resin based coating, and the tapes have been embedded with the synthetic resin based system. And this is for the pod in the precast structures. This is one of the pod project what we have executed, where one of the company they have used our products for the pod for a precast element, because the precast structures have been gaining more and more in even in Bangalore as well as in pan India. where the construction process would be much more faster in the precast system.
Yes,
Then this is about the
yes,
aqua arms. Yeah.
excuse me. You can share the earlier slide. Regarding
Uh,
pod, people may not be knowing what is pod.
yeah.
If you explain a little bit about it, they will be
Uh.
understanding what
This is
pod.
a pod is a precast element. What they do is that these precast elements are being fixed in the factory itself, and then they bring it to the site and then install it in the site. This is a precast, but the pod is nothing but the precast toilet kind of an or a bathroom kind of an structure. And this is how this is a video about the Aqua Arms Saniflex. Their application using Aqua Arms Saniflex is much more faster, and you can directly lay the tile on the top of this waterproofing single component material. In and this is a joint tape. Actually, in all the construction project of waterproofing, the people use and coving at the joint. But what happens when the coving is done, and then when the waterproofing is totally completed, the tile layer come, and then he try to fix the tile with a proper level. When he does not get a proper level, for example, if I have done a coving of something like 50 mm, if there is no proper, what he does, he chips that joint and then he lay the tile and go. Once the customer comes and occupies the building, when he starts using the whatever the resources available, then what happens, then there would be a high chance of water seepage, and that leads to the to again the repair, and the repair cost would be much more higher. To overcome that, we have a joint tape. This joint tape has got an elongation of ultimate elongation of more than 600%, and it has got a high tensile strength of more than 3 newtons per millimeter square. So this kind of tapes are also used for the preformed junction, and it is a tailor-made piece that is being easily prepared on the site to accommodate extended and severing curves, as well as to integrate the data, the details. So this is what the tape sizes are. So we can cut it and design it for any kind of change of directions. This is the application of the tape on the retaining wall. Yeah, and this kind of a tape can be embedded with the cementitious or the single component resinous based coating system. Then we have a below grade structured tapes. That is a joint tape, which is called as which is an elastomeric thermoplastic olefin based tape that is used for the basement and the tunneling works and for the hydraulic structure and the water. And this tape has got an higher elongation of greater than 650%. And this kind of a tapes are used at the joints where this is for the structural joints, and even in the precast each segment joints of the particular length, we use this tape. So this tape prevents the entry of water. This tape is a chemical resistant. It is also an root resistant material, and it has got an higher puncture resistant properties. The same tapes have been used for the expansion joint works also. This is one of the project where the size of an expansion joint was more than 150 mm. So we have a tape of 1 meter by 20 meter tape that can be used for the various size the joint width of a seismic joints, because because most of now the structures have been designed and in the form of a seismic joints. Why? Because if there is any effect of a natural disaster or earthquake, so the structure should not fall all apart from each other. This is about the pools and the water futures. What we talk about in a pools, what we see, it is an efflorescence on the due to the water future. And in a pools, what we see, the outlets may not be proper, or the water inlets may not be proper. So there would be, it also causes, because they use the continuous use of chlorine, or because of the continuous use of the chlorine, there would be an high cost that the tile joints or the glass mosaic tile joints open up, and because of that the water might enter and cause the deterioration of the structure. In swimming pool, what is the requirement? In a swimming pool, it should your coating should be an crack bridging and static and dynamic, and it good waterproofing properties. Should be compatible for the tile overlay applications. And this is how the swimming pool is done, because we have a product called Aqua Arm 2C that comes in the 4 different colors. That is from the white, the gray, the green, and a blue. We can give you the product with the different colors. We would next talk about the roof and decks. Now, even in the roof and deck also, we would first talk about the problems and defects, the types of roofs and system criteria, and the best practice. Why we are talking more emphasizing on the problems and defects as well as the system criteria? This is very, very important, because when we know the problems, then we can give a proper solution as well as the system criteria. And also it will also help you to choose a right waterproofing system. In a roof, what happens? You can see the waterproofing materials are deteriorated from the exposure to weathering. You can see the most of the weathering, because of the weathering effect, because some of these waterproof coating, because if you use a cementitious based coating, some of the cementitious based coatings are not UV resistant. When you apply it on the terrace, when it is exposed for the thermal effect as well as for the UV, they deteriorate and they come out of this the substrate. They lose their bond strength. You can see the picture to my right in the below. That is a different kinds of an waterproofing system which has totally peeled off. Now you cannot see any waterproofing system at all. Now, what is the problem in a roof is that there is no proper slope is maintained, or the continuous water ponding would take place because there is an improper provision of the outlet as well as the improper slope maintained. Then this is a poor adhesion and the termination. Sometimes what happens, if these waterproofing agencies, they are not technically clear about the certain kind of a waterproofing system, they do such a nasty negligible job that would compromise on the quality system. Now this is the lap joints are not sealed properly. This is another problem with when you use based membrane systems. And the another issue what you find is the leakage through the joint between the slab and the parapet. This is another problems where you can see the water seeping or the efflorescence and the leaching effects takes place. Certain times what happens, if the surface is not prepared properly, or if there is no maintenance done properly, then because of the beating effect of the birds they drop down some of the seeds and all that grow up on your terrace. And this what happens when their roots try to penetrate in, then there is a high chance of a crack that has been developed. And this is another problem, because most of the time we see these problems, and so because of the deteriorated expansion joints, some people what they do, they use some kind of an sealant at the joints without any protection, then apply some cementitious coating on the top, and after the due course of time they disintegrate and then they peel off from the surface. This is another problem. Then if it is an EPDM, it's been used, and these are the failures because of the damage, because of the EPDM laps, joints open up, and because that would be the source of the water seepage, and then you have a lot of water seepage on the slab, and you will never know from where the water is seeping in. And this is another typical example. If the membrane expands due to the heat and does not recover, this is because of the improper selection of the waterproofing system. If you do, due to the effect of the thermal effect, it wrinkles. This is the one of the project where we visited, where the Hdpe membranes have been placed. You can see the touch application of an APP where they have heated very much. and it is too much of torching, the membrane thickness is not maintained and executed by an untrained applicator without proper tools and tackles. Now the environmental conditions are strict because of use of an APP, as well as the removal of the APP is also becoming very difficult. And this is a too much works and a lot of joints in an APP based material, because of this too much of joints. Now all people go for a seamless coating system, and this is one of the project where the applicator has applied an Hdpe membrane directly on the uncleaned surface, and therefore there is no proper bonding. Because of no proper bonding, and it gets debonded from the surface, and when you use an Hdpe membrane, you have lot of problems of the fire hazard. That is very important. You need to take this into mind. And when there is a service or the damage of a waterproofing membranes, this is what takes place when you have lot of movements on the any kind of an waterproofing membrane. This is the one of the project where we visited, where the Hdpe polypropylene based tar felts have been placed, and now you can see, because of the continuous exposure, it has been deteriorated. Now the cracks on the slab, you can see this is one of the project with 30-year-old project. You can see the cracks on this slab, and certain times the improper sealing of the joints, because of the improper maintenance also takes place, because of the improper sealing of the joints, or there is no proper outlet, the water stagnate, and that causes also leads to the seepage later on. Now you can see the deteriorated tile grouts between the tiles, and water enters through these joints and start leaking from the cracks and the masonry wall. Now the brickbat coba, most of the people go for and brickbat coba. The brickbat coba is with an improper slopes. It is with an improper slope, and most of the people tell that it is a waterproofing. No, it is not a waterproofing. It is slope making. Some people also tell that it has got an better insulation properties. The insulation properties of an brickbat coba is less than 1. And this is what happens: the deterioration of this slurry. In a brickbat coba laid surface, they go for a small render on the top, and when it is exposed to sunlight, and it chips off, or the cracks, and the cracks develops, and because of that the water stops seeping through. This is the improper the level through the outlet, or the outlet is provided, less number of outlets have been provided, and this is also the water seepage takes place due to the water logging. And this is one of the typical projects where this is one of the industry, and the water starts seeping through it, and you can see the conditions of the employees who are working there. And there are many kinds of equipments, which are costly equipments that have been available. You think a single drop of water, then you think the condition of the employees who are working. To prevent all these things, you require a good waterproofing systems. What are the decks in the roof? It is called as a clear deck. You do not have anything on the top up, and then we have an service installations. You have an AC ducts, or the installation ducts on the terrace of a certain kind of a project of an industries. Then we have a recreation ducts, because most of the people likes to be very close to the nature, and they want to be a different kind of but the recreation terrace ducts. And now this has become very important after this COVID, because the plant decks at the roof gardens have become more and more visible in most of the houses. I think so. It also comes under the green building conditions also. Then if you have, it is also a waterproofing system is very much important for the parking decks. And this is what happens when you have a nearby parking and deck and your house nearby that. This is what happened with this in the adjoining of a parking. Now we have a various kind of products. Now we have the various kind of products for terrace. It is a preform membranes, the liquid applied, acrylic, polyurethane, PVC, polyuria, cementitious, and bituminous based. What is the selection criteria? Selection criteria is based on the weathering of an exposure to UV. So what is the options we have? we need to select the criteria depending upon the surface or different kinds of waterproofing systems. Which one we are adopting? Is it an exposed surface or a concealed system? Or if it is a weathering system, it is an exposed or a concealed system. Mainly the concealed system would be of pedestrian vehicular traffic or aesthetic or functional. Now what happens in a movement in a slab, also we need to consider as a deflection or a settlement, or the temperature gradient changes that would take place, or due to the thermal shock. Depending upon the kind, then we need to select a different kinds of an waterproofing system. What is that we need to select? We need to select the waterproofing system based on the crack bridging ability of that product. Why a crack bridging ability? When the stress is applied, there would be an formation of cracks. That this opening up and the pre-existing of a micro cracks takes place. Therefore, your waterproofing system should be flexible as well as stretchable. Now, the property of the waterproofing commonly headed by our manufacturers, certain kind of manufacturer is elongation is break. I give you a question: which is the system you select? Do you select a material A with 500% elongation or a material B with 200% elongation? Which is the better material? Can anybody answer me? Which is the product? Which one you select? Do you select a material A or a material B? Please drop down in your in the chat box. Very good. Most of them are answering the right question, the right answers. Because why? During a thermal stresses which causes the movements of the slab to fluctuate according to the temperature, because cracks open up and close repeatedly. Therefore, it is in the expected service life, the crack bridging ability of the waterproofing system has to be seen. Because most of the time when we go to the customers, they tell that the X has given me 1000% elongation. I ask them, why you require 1000% elongation material? Because our concrete is a low modulus material, right? What is the reason why you require? But what is that as a fellow engineers or as a professional, we need to see is that the crack bridging ability of the material. Why? Because it is not only the ability of the metal to elongate, but also recover when the original length, when the stress is removed. That is under the repeated cycle. Therefore, the EN 1062 part 7 talks about static crack bridging properties and the crack bridging properties under the dynamic crack bridging properties at the different kinds of loading conditions. So the crack classifications as per the EN 10262 in the crack bridging properties, if you take an MYK Arment, all the TDS you can see, it would be in the range of A5 or in the range of A4. That means it can take where the crack width or the crack can do till 2.5 mm. Next, we talk about the planter box waterproofing. In a small planter box or in the large planter box, what is the kind of a waterproofing system we need to go? Is it if we are growing trees is in the planter box, then what happens? The roots travel in, then it also causes the damage to the concrete. If there is a small planter box, then you can use a cementitious based system or a small plants what you are growing. If it is a larger one, then you need to use an anti-root resistant materials. And this is what has happened if there is no proper waterproofing selection be done. Because most of the project we see, even in the podiums or in the landscape areas, they go for a cementitious based waterproofing system. But a cementitious based waterproofing system has got its own limitations depending upon the application area. Any cementitious based waterproofing systems are much more the area limitations of something less than 500 per square meters only. Now, if the podium slab is more than 10,000 square meters, also they use a cementitious waterproofing system. Within 2-3 years, they find the issues, and then they spend up a high amount of cost. This is what happens in a planter box. If a planter box, if it is not waterproof properly, and because of the roots or the joint treatments are not done properly, you have all these issues. What are the selection criteria of planter box? First, you need to select depending upon the type and degree of a root resistance, if any. The system built up, there is a drainage layer or a separation layer. Drainage layer is nothing but at your dimple boards have been placed, or then generally the selection criteria is depends upon the immersion, chemicals, and microbiological growth. For large areas, you requires crack resistant based material. That's what I was talking about. If it is a podium of more than 1,000 square meter, also you use a cementitious material. If it is a small toilet of 100 square meters, also you use a cementitious material. But we need to be very clear about the selection criteria for the different kinds of waterproofing systems. Now we talk about the polyurethane based coatings. The polyurethane based coatings was developed by the Otto Bayer, or he's also called as the father of polyurethanes. There are the various development that took place with the polyurethanes. That is waterborne polyurethanes, two component polyurethanes, the polyaspartic and waterborne systems. What are these polyurethanes? Polyurethanes is a reaction between the isocyanate as well as polyols with the catalyst that has got an high flexibility, and these polyurethanes are classified into pitch modified polyurethanes, water based polyurethanes, solvent based polyurethanes, and pure polyurethanes. MYK Arment has got water based as well as the solvent based as well pure polyurethanes. We are not with the pitch modified polyurethanes, because in a pitch modified polyurethane fails due to the hydrolysis process when it is completely submerged in water. And this is the MYK Arment polyurethane coatings. These are the products which one I will not go about that. What are the basic between and different kinds of a water-based or the solvent-based polyurethane systems? In a water-based or the solvent-based polyurethane system, it is the dispersant is the water. In a solvent-based, it is solvent. And then what is the additional requirement? What we need to know is that now the new water-based polyurethanes are developed with the root resistant, but the solvent-based polyurethane has got an high root resistant properties and with an high solid content. Why is a water-based polyurethane? Because water is green, and then in a water-based coatings have got at even less than 0 to 15 grams per liter. That is the VOC-free material. That's the reason it is a green product. So we go for an water-based polyurethane, and this how the reaction takes place. Polyurethane in presence of air, it dries to form a polyurethane coating. It is a green product. What are the areas you can apply the polyurethane coating? For the concrete protection, the podium, the complex roof, the planter box, or any kind of an areas you can apply the polyurethane based coating. This is a system build-up. First is a surface preparation, then you need to apply a suitable primer and then the polyurethane coating. This is a system built up for the retaining wall waterproofing systems. You need to do a proper surface preparation. You need to treat all the infirmities in the concrete, and then you need to apply a primer and the polyurethane based coating system, and then the protection system with the drain board or the dimple board. This drain board or the dimple board helps in preventing any damage to the coating against the backfill, as well as to guide the water to the drain pipe. And this is a small video of an polyurethane based waterproofing systems that has been used for the retaining wall waterproofing system. You can see the once the primer is applied, you can see a person who is even coating the surface with the polyurethane based waterproofing system. You can see all the joints have been treated, and then the tie rod holes have been treated properly. Then the primer is applied, and then he's applying a polyurethane based waterproofing system, and it is applied in 2 coats. So this is for an exposed deck. If you have an old structure which has been leaking, or you need a protection, you can apply this polyurethane coating on the discrete concrete also in 2 coats. You can see this video. This our polyurethane coatings can be sprayed. Your work would be much more faster than this roller applied system. You can complete a large area per day. You can complete something like 300 to 400 square meters. This is one of the projects where you can see there is the cracks on the screed. The screed cracks have been treated, and then it is applied with a polyurethane based coating system using a spray applied pump. And this is for an inclined roof slab where the polyurethane coatings are applied on the inclined roof, which is an 30 years old building, which is an NCC house, where the polyurethane based coating systems have been applied for the protection of the concrete structure. You can see at the one where and the mixing as well as the equipment that has been used to spray this polyurethane based coating system. When you spray the polyurethane based coating system, it would give you much more and higher advantage, and you can cover a large area. And this is about our solvented based polyurethane based system, which has got a high solid content, and you can see how flexible the material is. This is the flexibility of the material, which has got an high crack bridging properties of more than 2 mm, and it comes in the range of A5 of an EN 1062. You can see how flexible the material is. It has got an high crack bridging abilities, and it has got an excellent bond to the substrate. And this is about the concealed for the concealed roof, where you can use a polyurethane coating on the concrete surface. Then you can lay a screed concrete. This is for the tiled surface. The principle remains same. Using a tile adhesive, you can even lay the tiles. And this is for the green roofing, where you can use a drainage layer and then the soil filling and the plantation on the top, so that this kind of a waterproofing system, based waterproofing system, has got a better the thermal stress resistance as well as the crack bridging ability. This is the application procedure. This is what is the surface preparation, but we need to be very clear about the moisture should be less than 5%, and then all the joints has to be treated, and then if there is any cracks, that has to be treated. Then this is what is the system. We can go for as the most used system is surface grinding. At certain places they use also the shot blasting system also to remove the damaged concrete and to give a better surface. Now, the reason for a coating failure, 80% would be more on surface preparation, 15% on application issues, 5% on the wrong material selections. Now, in a podium or a terrace, you need to pre-pond the surface and test for any cracks or seepage. Then you need to go for a pressure grouting or an intervention. Check the moisture. When the moisture is less than 5%, then you can apply the polyurethane based systems. And this is a primer application, and you need to sprinkle sand, which gives a mechanical bonding, and you can spray or even use a roller to apply our polyurethane based coatings. And you can apply the first coat, and then you can leave for at least 8 hours for the second coat applications. Once it is laid, to lay on to lay a concrete above the polyurethane, you need to use a geotextile, which acts as an layer that protects against from any damage during concreting process. This is for the retaining wall. The process remains same. You need to check the moisture on the surface, and when the moisture level is as permissible, then you need to apply a primer. Once the primer is applied, the 2 coats of polyurethanes have been applied, and then you need to use a drain board. This drain board protection board against the damage. Next, we will talk about polyuria coating and PU foam. So what is this polyuria? The polyuria is a 2-component spray applied membrane based on the specially developed advanced polyuria technology, and Aqua Arm Gepotec or a polyuria is a membrane that system forms a tough within seconds, and it has got achieved a global acceptance, have been successfully installed in many projects. What is a polyuria? The polyuria is a reaction between isocyanate and polyetheramines. So this is what is the difference between a polyurethane and the polyuria. So what is polyuria? Polyuria is a high performance two component system. It has a mixed ratio of 1:1, and then it rapid cures which sets within seconds. So you get, once it sets within seconds, you can allow traffic within 10 to 15 minutes, and you can allow the vehicular traffic within an hour, and then you can do any kind of an application on the top. It is an high waterproof. It has got an high outstanding properties. It is designed to protect various surface, and polyuria is a product that beats the traditional coating. And this is how you can see how polyuria is much more a better waterproofing system. Once you spray this polyuria based system on any substrate, it sets within seconds.